Yeah, so guys, this is a CD. If you're wondering what this is, original compact discs by Alt J. So this is their second album, and I really love CDs. One thing about CDs is that it produces high quality music. You won't lack anything, and for music lovers, actually, you'd opt for CDs. Though the digital world is taking its space, and we have streaming apps like Apple Music, Spotify, but then it all depends with how strong your internet is to be able to get that high quality music. Anyway, we're not talking about this today. That's a story for another day. So today I thought I should talk about where my love for music came from. Ever since I was young, my dad loves music so much, and I saw him change music systems one or two times. At one point, we had this Panasonic cassette player. We also had this Royal radio. This was a vintage audio music player. And then in 2007, I believe, 2007, 2006 there, when my dad moved in from Nairobi, we used to stay in Kisumu, and then my dad was never living with us. So when he moved in, he came home with this home theater. It was an LG home theater that I'd never seen anything like it before. The kind of music that that thing produced, it was a 5.1 channel with 5 satellite speakers. If you've ever owned a home theater, you know, like it has 5 small set of speakers and then that one subwoofer, and that had the disc player that you connect the speakers onto. And this thing was able to disseminate the music in a way that I'd never heard before. Like some voices could come from other speakers. The front speakers would produce only their voices and the instruments, and that subwoofer had very good bass, decent bass actually. Not to the details that I would say nowadays the subwoofers produce, but it still could do the job. You could still enjoy your music. So ever since I came across that home theater, I used to believe that home theaters are the best when it comes to music, just because it was able to separate different instruments. The voices could come from different speakers. But then in 2018, I believe, before then I owned a couple of speakers, Ampex, the life of a student, you cannot afford a high-end music system, so you go for what you could afford. But then there's this one time, I used to develop websites. So there was this Asian guy, Mwindi guy, who wanted me to do his website, and of course, with the Asian guys, they like it if you're doing the work at their office, so he didn't allow me to work from home. So yes, I packed my stuff, my laptop, and went to his office then at Parklands. So one thing about this guy is that he used to play the same playlist every day. And Leo Rogers, actually. For those who know me, they know that I like Leo Rogers. Though I discovered Leo Rogers through this Asian guy. And the kind of sound that came out of his music system was just wow. That it was out of this world. I'd never had music like that before. Like the quality, the bass, the depth, the instruments, the voice, everything was just wow. So I didn't want to ask. I was kind of shy, like, hey, how would this guy take me if I ask what brand of speaker that is? So I really struggled. So for the first day, I didn't have a look at which brand the speaker was. Though I believe it was a big music system, and I couldn't just figure out where are the other parts, because the sound that was coming out of that room was just majestic, you could, like, literally from morning to evening, those songs used to play, and you wouldn't have any form of migraine or any form of headache. That shows you how quality and how mindful the sound that came out of that system was. So the second day, I just swallowed my pill and asked the guy who was sitting next to me, the graphics designer, okay, what music system is playing this music? And then he showed me, okay, there's that small speaker at the corner. That's the one that is producing all that sound. Then I told him, man, you must be joking. That small thing cannot produce that whole sound. Like I used to believe that bigger is better, you know, bigger is louder. But then later on, when people were going for lunch, the boss stepped out, and I got a chance to. I pretended that I'm preparing my tea, my coffee, and then just walked straight to that corner and checked. And do you know which brand of speaker that was? It was Harman Kardon. So that was the first time I came across a small speaker that could produce a very big sound. Like it was just something else. So I asked myself, wow. And how come? Like this thing is so small, it produces huge sound, big sound. The bass is deeper than most subwoofers that I've come across. And at that point, I'd owned some big subwoofers from different brands, including Sony home theater and LG home theater. And I believe that, okay, whatever I have here has the biggest bass for a small room. Like, yes, of course, it can't compete with those subwoofers that are on Ganyas or the ones that are used on public address systems. But for my house, that Sony or that LG could do the job perfectly well. The sound could fill up the room. But then this small thing, it produces some kind of bass that I've never heard before. You know, like it had levels to that bass. Like I could hear there's this hard bass, this tight bass, there's this deep bass that you feel, like you can't hear it, but you just feel it in your chest. That small speaker could do that. But then again, something that really amazed me was the fact that this speaker could, it knew how to articulate the voices, the instruments, you know, like it didn't sound any plasticish, you know. If it was wood being played, if someone was knocking the wood, it was wood. It was not any plastic or any other thing. Like that sound was, it just blew my mind. And from that day onwards, I went to the internet and checked Harman Kardon, and my goodness, I think the cheapest speaker I came across was 20,000 Kenyan shillings, and asked myself, wow, okay, if I was to check this online, I would probably dismiss it like, no, come on, this small speaker cannot be this expensive. But after hearing the kind of sound that comes out of it, like the price was justified. So from that day, I think it changed my perception of it doesn't have to be big to sound big and quality. Actually, it depends with the drivers that I used on a speaker. So from that day, I held Harman Kardon, that brand, to high regards, and I just said, okay, this is the best music system brand I've ever come across, and no one tops this, no one will ever beat this, no other brand will ever come close to what these guys were doing. But then my passion for music grew. Now, I told you the cheapest speaker I could get for Harman Kardon was 20K. But then I really wanted to own this thing. So I went to Gigi, I went to PDME, those platforms where you can get used items to try and find if I could even find one that could cost 13K, 14K. I used one even if it was broken, but it still works, you know, so that I could own and listen to that music at my place. So I went to Gigi and I got one. Guy was selling it for 14K. Then I said, do you know what? I think 14K is a fair price for me. That's a price that I can afford. So I waited for my paycheck, and that's the first thing that I went after. So when I went to this guy's place, I didn't know that this guy was selling ex-UK stuff, and he had other brands of speakers, not only Harman Kardon, but then I was really stuck. Like I really wanted this Harman Kardon. And the guy told me, have you ever heard of this brand called Bang & Olufsen? I told him no, but all I know I want Harman Kardon. But he told me, do you know what? wait, you just listen to this Bang & Olufsen and then tell me what you think. So the speakers it came with were like smaller speakers than that Harman Kardon, though they were two speakers and they could communicate wirelessly. So this guy placed one on the left, one on the right, and then told me, yeah, just sit there at the center. And he played some classical music. Actually, he played Hello by Lionel Richie. And my goodness, I think my head was turning, like, my head was turned because, wow, okay, if Hamad Kardon was doing it at 80%, like, Bang & Olufsen took it to another whole level, like, if, goodness me, the sound that came out of that Bang & Olufsen. Now, one thing that fascinated me about that Bang & Olufsen was the fact that those small boxes, you couldn't tell if the sound is coming from those small speakers or it's just within the environment. So, like, it had this ability to, I don't know how to describe it, but you couldn't tell. It had some nice center imaging of that sound. That's a term that they use, center image. If the sound is so centered and you cannot tell if it's coming out of a speaker. And wow, it was on another level. So, but I couldn't afford because now the Bang & Olufsen was 30K, so I just had to settle with the Harman Kardon that I came with.